Tonight, CalMac's ferry fiasco worsens again. Another budget-busting increase in costs at Ferguson's and further delays for the new boats.
There are also demands for police to investigate how the contract was awarded. Also making the headlines, international concern about the UK government's financial plans. And as people struggle to pay the bills, inflation pushes supermarket prices up by 10% in a year.
We talk about fuel poverty, we talk about income poverty, we talk about, food poverty. It's just simple. People don't have enough money.
I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The cost of building 2 ferries at the Ferguson Marine Yard has risen by more than £70 million since March. The company has also confirmed the second vessel, Hull 802, has been delayed and will not be ready until 2024.
The ferry, due to serve the Western Isles, had been due for completion by the end of next year. It's the latest in a series of setbacks at the Port Glasgow Yard. Here's our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie.
It's just 5 months since Ferguson Marine fitted the bow unit on Hull 802, a visible sign of progress on a project beset with delays and cost overruns. However, the vessel's handover to CalMac has been pushed back once more, from the end of next year to March 2024 at the latest. And costs have also increased. According to Ferguson Marine, the total budget has gone up more than £70 million since March. The Scottish Government will now examine their figures. The company's chief executive said the target for completion of the Glasgow remains April next year, although there could be up to 2 months slippage in the final handover. This is despite confidence in April the yard was on track for delivery.
Can you guarantee then that these latest delays and rises in costs will be the final ones?
I believe so. I think we've given ourselves enough time, extending Glasgow into spring 23.
At Holyrood, the Conservatives called for a police investigation as well as a public inquiry into allegations the process of awarding the contract to the yard was rigged.
Chaos upon chaos upon chaos, shambles and scandal are now evidence that should merit a police investigation. We may go from the murky depths of the Clyde to a court of law. It's beyond shameful, and it's islanders who are suffering. It must end soon, and remember, the buck stops with the First Minister.
Meanwhile, the Deputy First Minister was asked about the latest overruns.
What will the implications of that be for the island communities that would serve?
Deputy First Minister?
I'm obviously aware of the letter that Ferguson's have sent to the Net Zero Committee today, and what the Government will be doing is interrogating the report that has come from Ferguson's with appropriate due diligence to determine what is our response to the points that have been raised by Ferguson's. But I stress, and I'll come on to say this in a moment, there is a necessity for sustained investment in the ferry network, and the Government has of course committed to that in other respects.
The issue is likely to resurface at First Minister's questions tomorrow. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Our special correspondent joins us now. Bernard, how embarrassing is this for ministers?
Very, because it's embarrassment on top of embarrassment on top of embarrassment. And it has cost the Scottish taxpayers over £150 million. That money could have paid for more police officers, more teachers, more doctors, more nurses. It could have helped plug the gaps in NHS dentistry. It could have given public sector workers a higher pay claim. And in our system of government, ministers are accountable to Parliament for what happens on their watch. That means being accountable for things that go right. It also means to be accountable for things when they go wrong. Quite a lot has gone wrong in this case, and as opposition politicians will tell you, no minister has paid the ultimate price with their job.
And Bernard, revelations in the last 24 hours that the procurement process in this bill was rigged. What are the legal implications of that?
Well, the allegation is it was rigged in favour of Ferguson's and against two other bidders. What the Scottish Conservatives are saying is that the police should be asked to probe this. The First Minister said today that in her view there is no evidence of criminality in the procurement process, but it wasn't a matter for her. At the end of the day, it will be a matter for Police Scotland to determine if there's any prima facie evidence that would merit a police probe. But they will think long and hard, given the political sensitivities around this. If it's the case, and I have to say that there is more than credible evidence to suggest this process was massaged in favour of Ferguson's, then the two losing yards, in my view, would have a claim for damages. So there is no way that this is over. It will run and run, starting tomorrow at First Minister's Questions.
Bernard, thank you.
Now, as winter draws closer and inflation continues to rise, charities are warning we will see deaths amongst older people if no further government support is given.
A new study from Age Scotland found nearly half of over 50s in Scotland are currently living in fuel poverty. And with food inflation now at an all-time high, some older people say they're skipping meals or avoiding cooking altogether. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
For a few hours each day, older people are welcomed into this community hub in Edinburgh for some warmth. But rising bills back home are never far from their minds.
The electricity cut back a lot on that. Food, milk, butter, cheese, all these sort of things used to be commonplace, but now they're luxuries.
All the food. I was going to say, you go into the shops and you see all the price of the shoe, and it's not just 25 pence, some of them are 50p up, you know.
You don't get enough pension to cover it, really.
Everything goes up, but not much on the pension.
But at the end of the day, people don't have enough money. We talk about fuel poverty, we talk about income poverty, we talk about, food poverty. It's just simple. People don't have enough money.
A new study found nearly half of over 50s in Scotland are living in fuel poverty, raising serious concerns for the winter months ahead.
Already we're hearing stories that, older people are thinking about just heating one room, having one lamp on, only putting the kettle on once to make a flask of tea or coffee, and actually thinking about eating cold food so they don't have the cost of heating up food, which is just heartbreaking. And in Scotland today, that just isn't acceptable, really.
Food inflation has also risen to a record high, now more than 10%. As the pound falls even further against the dollar, supermarkets are battling huge cost pressures too, and that is inevitably passed on to the consumer. In the last month, the biggest price hikes have yet again been on everyday essential items like tin tomatoes, margarine and pasta.
The retailers are, if you like, putting the inflation in at the moment that was probably in the economy 3 or 4 months ago, and that's why it's likely to continue through. At the same time, though, that the good news for consumers is we've got a really competitive retail market. Shops are going to do everything they can to keep it down. They want to do the right thing for customers, and of course they want to make sure they stay ahead of their competitors. So it's going to be difficult, but hopefully it can be mitigated where possible.
Without further help, it could indeed be the most vulnerable, counting the highest cost of the current economic turmoil. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
Meanwhile, the Bank of England has stepped in to try to calm markets and prevent what's called a material risk to UK financial stability. It comes after the International Monetary Fund criticised the government's plans.
The pound has slumped in value to record lows and a number of lenders have withdrawn mortgage products. Opposition parties say Parliament needs to be recalled. We're live now to our Westminster correspondent Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, the question many people are asking today is where are Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Westminster is in a recess because of party conferences for a few days now. The SNP and the Lib Dems have been saying it should be recalled. Today, Labour's leader joined their ranks. Now, we've not heard today from the Prime Minister or from the Chancellor. In fact, in the last few days, the only pictures we've seen of the Prime Minister have been a few snaps of her out for a morning jog. No sign, though, that the Chancellor would plan to resign over this or change his policies, change the plans he set out in that mini budget last Friday. In fact, there's been a real sense of defiance from the Treasury today. They've been saying the government's policies are the right plans and they will make our economy more competitive. Now, there have been no public calls yet from any Tory backbenchers for Kwasi Kwarteng to go over this, but there has been clear signs of discontent. You know, we saw a tweet today from one senior Tory, that's Simon Hoare. He tweeted, "This inept madness cannot go on." And in Scotland, it's been former Conservative MSPs and MPs that have been more outspoken. One former Tory MP, Paul Masterton, tweeted, "This is a good day for very different reasons. No longer to be a Tory MP or a pensions lawyer." And a former MSP, Adam Tompkins, he only left Holyrood last year. A newspaper, he's had an article writing that the Tories' time in power is up. Holyrood, the First Minister, was suggesting the impact on the UK economy of all this is possibly going to be more severe than that of the 2008 global financial crash. So an extraordinary set of circumstances for Liz Truss as a new Prime Minister to be preparing to address her party at their conference in Birmingham, due to start in a few days' time.
OK, Catherine at Westminster, many thanks for that. Now, a woman taking part in prayers outside an abortion clinic has told STV News she's using personal experience to try to change women's minds. Mary Lucas is among those staging vigils under the 40 Days for Life banner.
The latest anti-abortion demonstrations come as MSPs consider proposals for buffer zones around health centres. Campaigners fighting for the legislation say today's protests have strengthened their resolve. Kay Nicholson has the latest.
This group gathered outside the Chalmers Sexual Health Clinic in Edinburgh this afternoon with a clear message.
We're here to pray. We believe that God can soften a heart and turn somebody's mind away from taking the life of their own child.
Some people are saying that they went for an abortion, they'd already thought it through. It's a difficult decision anyway, and seeing people outside the clinic had made them feel even worse about something that was already a traumatic day.
Certainly from my own experience, I had an abortion when I was a student at the Art College, and I sincerely wish that somebody had said to me, there is another way.
Do you respect that some people don't feel that way?
A lot of women say they wish that somebody had been there to say there's another way.
For the past few years, a campaign has been building to put a stop to demonstrations like this. A bill to impose 150-metre buffer zones around hospitals has gathered cross-party support from MSPs.
It's actually one of these bills that, regardless of your thoughts on the abortion debate, you can still see that harassment outside a clinic where, service use is being impeded by people causing upset is not on.
Today marks the start of the latest 40 Days for Life campaign, no doubt fueling this contentious debate. Kay Nicholson, STV News, Edinburgh.
A smart helmet that could help firefighters quickly locate people trapped in smoke-filled buildings is being developed by researchers at the new National Robotarium. The device uses thermal cameras, radar and sensors to help first responders detect victims and navigate low-visibility conditions.
The announcement of this research comes as a £22.4 million facility officially opened its doors in Edinburgh today. Indigo Stafford reports.
It's a firefighter's deadliest enemy. As they battle to save lives, smoke leaves rescuers unable to see and with no idea of their surroundings. But the fog is lifting for these firefighters in Edinburgh. They're testing out a groundbreaking new device that allows them to see through the smoke.
Firefighters often operate in environments with really low or zero visibility. They're all highly trained to deal with that, but this piece of equipment will support that skill and allowing us to identify and locate people stuck in fire situations much earlier.
When firefighters are called out to an emergency, they only have a matter of minutes to pull on layers of protective gear and heavy equipment. And that's why the entire sensor rig was designed to only weigh less than a kilogram, so that it can easily fit on to existing firefighter helmets.
So this is a retrofitted helmet, right? And what you are seeing here is a small camera, portable small camera.
The new equipment is a collaboration between the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and researchers from the new National Robotarium.
We know firefighters are heroes, everyone knows that. But the problem is like, can we give the heroes superhero ability to let them see through the smoke? For victim search, the first 8 minutes is a golden time, golden window. If you miss that, even you found the victim, it's too late.
Funded by the UK and Scottish governments, the National Robotarium unites experts from both Edinburgh and Heriot-Watt universities to transform cutting-edge research into new technologies.
Well, there's a whole range of things. So at the moment we're engaged in everything from helping health boards look at new ways of running their hospitals, looking at benefiting social care in terms of people living at home long term, working with hotels, looking at how they run more efficiently in the future, and also looking at things like agriculture, construction, and more recently just starting to look at some applications in space.
The National Robotarium want to solve some of society's biggest challenges, putting Scotland at the forefront of global development in AI and robotics. Indigo Stafford, STV News, Edinburgh.
No robot with the weather. Here's Sean.
Watch out for a sudden temperature drop. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
So some wild and very autumnal weather on the way Friday and Saturday, windy and pretty wet too. Now, talking of rain, well, not too much of that round through this evening, although I expect across lights of Falkirk, Clackmannanshire and down towards Lanarkshire we will see some shower outbreaks of rain further northwest, though largely dry with clear spells, and expect our lowest temperatures tonight around the West Highlands, inland parts of Argyll, down to about 6 or 7 degrees. Now, tomorrow morning for most of us it is dry, sunshine. We'll start to see some showers bubbling up into the afternoon, especially across central and southern areas, hopefully not coming to too much. Very light winds as well, and with top temperatures tomorrow up to a very mild 16 degrees, which is 61 in Fahrenheit. With the light winds, it is going to feel quite pleasant in that sunshine. Very different to Friday. Then looking at Friday, well, we've got that deep area of low pressure coming in, bringing us gale force winds quite widely across the Hebrides for a time, gusty winds as well in eastern parts too. And as that wind goes through, we've also got heavy rain as well, particularly wet across the Highlands and the hills of Argyll and Stirlingshire. So some very wet weather around along with those strong winds. So quite a bit of leaf falling. Of course, at this time of year, some of the leaves start to block up some of the drains. Possibility of some localised flooding on some of the roads. Now, Saturday, it's still going to stay very blustery. Hopefully we'll have lost the gales, but very blustery, and that means we'll see lots of showers, possibly heavy and thundery. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, that's all from us for now, but Rona will be here with Scotland Tonight at 10:40.
We will have the late bulletin just before that, and of course keep up to date on our app and website. From all of us here, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.